Hey guys, welcome to my first viewer comments video. I'm going to be doing these every Monday from now on. We used to do them in our Sunday night live streams, but it was hard for people to find that segment in the video on the rewatch. So I just decided to do a standalone video with viewer comments. I get a ton of comments every week on the videos that I do, and I want to make sure that I address them for you guys. Of course, I can't address all of the comments in this video. It'd probably be an hour and a half, 2 hours long. But that said, I do try to respond to everybody's comments with my thumbs. And for this week's video, I'll be reading everybody's comments in the voice of Arnold. Why? Because Arnold. My first comment is from Marcus Unger, and this is from my DV-77 video. It does have a full sound, in a good way. I mixed a V30 with a Jensen Tornado. It has a full sound. I think it might depend on the cab itself. I have an orange 212 and a Mesa 412. Both came with vintage 30. And the orange sounds nearly as dark, and the low end is pretty much nearly the same. Do you think that would matter? Meaning results may vary with what type of cab you have. I also have a barefaced cab, but I have not been able to try it yet. It's still in the packing. Wait a minute here. Why is it still in the packing? You should get it out. You're so lazy. Stop being lazy. Get it out and use it now. Do it. What the hell are you doing here? Wasting everyone's time, leaving things in the packing. You have to be ashamed of yourself. Clean yourself up. Anyways, I'm back to reading your comment now. But from my end, it sounds good. Different, but good. Well, I appreciate your comments, Marcus, and I'm glad you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much. So to your question, does it matter, like if you take the same kind of speakers and put them in different cabs, does it matter? Yes, it actually does matter. I mean, even the material that some manufacturers use in their grill cloth matters. They'll actually darken up the sound a little bit because it's actually acting as a filter in front of those speakers. So what a lot of amp builders do is they actually have a certain speaker in mind when they're making their amplifier. And the frequencies that the amplifier pushes coincide with the type of speaker that he's going to pair it with. And then that grill cloth actually is the final touch on what that speaker and amp combo is going to sound like. And then you also have the wood that the cabinet is made out of, and I'll get to that in a second. The placement of the speakers, whether they're front or rear loaded. I mean, there's so many different things. Even the baffles and how they're placed and built inside the cab, and what kind of wood they're made out of as well. All that stuff adds up to every cab is going to sound completely different than the other one, based on build, grill cloth, front or back loaded speakers, what the baffle's made out of, how it's placed. Everything, you know. So you could take the same pair of speakers and put them in two different cabs and they'll sound completely different. In fact, for those who don't know, I'll give you a quick history lesson on where the wood comes from that our cabs are built out of. It comes from the Baltic forest, and this wood is really, really dense and rich, and it's actually grown by wood experts. So it's the most dense wood that you can get, and because it's so dense, our cabs are very resonant and durable. It just sounds completely different. Now, there was a time, I don't remember when it was, but it was probably maybe 20, maybe 30 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could not, for some reason, harvest the wood from the Baltic forest to make cabs. So what happened was they used a different forest and harvested wood from there for the time being, and what happened was the cabs all sounded really light and thin and airy, and they sounded terrible for a while. And all the manufacturers were complaining and going, yeah, there are a bunch of cabs in circulation still to this day that actually sound really thin. And it's because the wood that they harvested for those cabs did not have the density that the wood from the Baltic forest did. So that's why the density of the wood is so important. The more dense it is, the more resonant the cab will be, and the thicker the sound will be when it comes from the speakers as well. It all kind of works together. It's got this big symbiotic relationship. Even if you have really beefy speakers, if you don't have a lot of resonance coming out of your cab, it's going to sound thin, and it tricks your ears. So that big vibration you get on the floor when you do palm mutes and stuff like that, mixed with whatever's coming out of your speaker, is the true sound of your cab. So that was the long version answer to your question. And the short version is, yes, it does matter. No matter what cab you put your speakers in, there is definitely going to be a different sound and resonance along with that sound. And this next comment is from Hola Yasin, and I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, just doing the best I can here. He says, I'd love to hear a DV-77 and a Sheffield pair together. You know, that would be a great experiment, because I honestly played a cab with Sheffields in it several years ago and I hated them. I thought they sounded really thin, brittle, and bright, and maybe the DV-77 would balance them out a little bit. I think the DV-77 is a great speaker on its own, but I think it is better when you pair it with a brighter speaker, because it adds some meat to that brightness and it just adds some beefiness to it and thickness, and I really like that. And it balances out the top end that you get in some of these speakers that could be a little harsh, and it depends on the amp too. If you have amps that have a lot of aggression, like the Stealth, lots of aggression, still sounds great in the vintage 30s, but I feel like the DV-77 really tamed that in a way where it added some thickness and took some of that harsh away. It kind of distracted you from the harshness, and I really think it had a good impact on the overall sound of the amplifier. So to circle back, yeah, if I get my hands on a Sheffield, I'll definitely pair it with the DV-77 in my Zilla cab and see what happens. Okay, and this next comment is from Highway to Hell.
I have the first version of the 6L6 5153 50-watt head. I can live with the volume problem with the green and blue channels. In your opinion, is it worth upgrading to the Stealth, or the high gain tones are close between the two? Awesome channel, by the way.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that, and great question. So to my recollection, when I had the 5153 6L6 on the show, I remember it being a little drier than the Stealth, and it didn't have as much texture and aggression on the top end. I found the blue channel to be too round and kind of dull for me, and the blue channel on the Stealth is way better. The red channel on the Stealth is definitely a lot more aggressive than the 6L6 version. I just think overall the Stealth is a much better choice for me anyways. You might think differently, but I think if you want the best of what the EVH family has to offer, I think it's the EL34 and the Stealth. Those two just have the most gain, the most saturated tones, while still remaining pretty dry, but at the same time there's like this perfect balance between saturation and dryness. They just found the sweet spot between those two and really dialed everything in perfectly on those amplifiers. I mean, especially on the Stealth, the clean channel is great. The blue channel is perfect for rhythms. It has plenty of gain for it and enough headroom in that gain, and it also has a lot of fullness and chunkiness to it, and it's voiced really well, and it cleans up nice, and it's very articulate for rhythms, and it has enough low end in it as well. The problem I've had with some of the EVH amps in the past is the blue channel was always a little lacking in the aggression and gain area. I always had this almost there or not enough kind of thing about it. With the Stealth, it was perfect. It was exactly what a rhythm channel should be. And if I remember correctly, it's the same on the EL34 100 watt as well. And the red channel is just madness. I mean, if you can't play leads on that, you got problems. And for most rhythm players, on that channel, you don't even need an overdrive. I mean, it's that tight and aggressive. It really is awesome. And that's me saying it. I'm Captain Overdrive Pedal. So if I tell you a channel doesn't need an overdrive, it probably doesn't. Now for leads, you might want to hit a boost on it depending on your playing style, but for the most part, that channel is freaking nasty as hell on the 100 watt Stealth. So to sum up, would I recommend the Stealth? Yes, go get it, man. I'm telling you, you will love it. You will absolutely love it. And if you put it directly up against your current amplifier, you're going to find that the Stealth has a lot more rage and texture in it. So if you get one, let me know what you think. Okay, and this next comment is from Barano. And this comment was on my Kraken versus Stealth video.
Lack of a presence knob might indicate that Victory voiced the speaker cabs to match the Kraken amps and designed to be played with the matching cabs only. With the 5150 presence knob, you can dial in a good tone with most non-proprietary speaker cabs.
You make a very interesting point. I think one of the things that a lot of people like to do is when they buy an amplifier, they get the matching cab, and there's a reason for it. It's because, like I've said before, amp manufacturers, when they're designing their amplifiers, they have a speaker or a set of speakers in mind, and they also have a cab design in mind when they're building it, so it complements the frequencies that the amplifier is pushing. A friend of mine, Steve Shaheen, just bought an Omega Obsidian, and he really liked it through my Mesa 212 cab with vintage 30s in it, but when he bought his Omega cab and finally got that delivered and hooked his amp up to that, that's when the magic happened with that amplifier. He said it's never sounded better. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when you're buying an amplifier. A lot of times you want to talk to the amp builder and ask them about the speaker cab that they would recommend for it. Usually they're going to recommend the speaker cab that they built with that amplifier because it's going to sound best with it. So yeah, maybe the Victory amplifiers sound a little dark through the Mesa cab with the vintage 30s in it, but through their own Victory cabs that were built with that amp in mind, I bet you it sounds a little brighter. This next comment is from Andrew Nicola, and this is about my Quad Cortex Is It a Flop video.
Appreciate this video so many times on YouTube, blowing up the QC. To think I was going to sell my Kemper at a loss to get one. I'll wait for 2.0. Community means everything in the digital realm.
Well, thank you for your comment, Andrew. I appreciate that. And you're right, community does mean a lot to the people in the digital realm. There's so many hive minds out there where everybody goes in and gets involved in all that groupthink, and they all think they got the jump on everybody else when it comes to their product. And it almost creates this cult type situation in there where everybody's smelling each other's farts and telling everybody they smell like strawberries. You know, it's it's crazy how cult like it gets in there, and everybody just becomes so close-minded to other products out there and to any kind of constructive criticism about the product that they bought and joined the group for. I'm so glad I could help you stay away from cults and groupthink when it comes to the QC or other products that are out there, because there's a lot of similarities between the groups that are involved in all of the digital platforms out there. And yeah, take a wait and see approach. If Quad Cortex actually does do all of the updates quickly and keep all of their promises, I mean, then the unit should probably be pretty cool. But in the meantime, there's other stuff that's coming out that might be more suitable for you. So there's nothing wrong with taking a step back and making sure that your money is well spent on something that works best for you. So yeah, I don't recommend the Quad Cortex in the current state that it's in right now. I mean, it's just lacking too many things. But in the future, when they do all the updates, I'll take a second look at it and maybe I'll review it again. Okay, and this next comment is from X equals what?
These haters are reading into what they want. Yes, he makes money doing captures, but he is not the only one who benefits. Fractal, Line 6, and Kemper get advertisement and product improvements without lifting a finger or spending a dime. Who benefits the most? The consumer, who can own professional grade tones for a pittance. When and if QC folks fulfill their promise of something better in the future, I'll give it another look. But I have an FM3 that sounds amazing right now and has gotten demonstrably better with each of the mini firmware updates over the last several months.
Thank you so much, X equals what. I'm so glad that you get it. A lot of people did understand what I was saying when I talked about the whole marketplace thing with the Quad Cortex, but then there were a lot of butthurt people that as soon as I started talking about money, they literally just started labeling me as somebody who's just upset because I'm not making money off of captures in the Quad Cortex. So for the record, again, I have to say this because I'm still getting butthurt comments on my video. I don't care whether or not I make money on the Quad Cortex regarding the marketplace. Okay, I don't care. So here's the thing. When I was mentioning that whole marketplace in there, I wasn't trying to fight for the professional capture makers so that they could make a living. Okay, I was fighting for Quad Cortex customers to get good captures for their Quad Cortex. And the only way to make that happen is for professionals to make them, because professionals are always going to do a better job making captures than amateurs will, because of all the equipment, experience, and talent that it's required to make that happen. And yeah, there's a lot of money involved in getting the equipment to make proper captures as well. And only professionals are going to spend that kind of money because they're going to recoup that with their sales. And Neural also benefits off of this because all the ads that are associated with the captures that these professionals are making are mentioning Neural and the Quad Cortex. So it's a free ad for them as well, and it's associated with captures that sound amazing because, again, they were made by professionals. I just wish people would understand that. Some of them just took everything I said as I'm just fighting for myself and others to make money off of selling captures. Again, I don't care about that. I'm more concerned about what's good for their customers who bought the unit and the company itself to thrive off of the ads and everything else that I mentioned that's associated with professional captures. So I'm glad to see some people out there still have a brain and understand where I'm coming from and didn't get all butthurt and in the weeds about what I said. A lot of times it's really good to be open-minded so that you can really hear what people are saying. Sometimes the things that people say can be a little bit of a bruise to our ego, and when you remove your own feelings or your own ego from the situation, you can see the truth for what it is and learn something. I've had to do that in my life, and it's not always fun, but at the end of the day, if it makes you better, then it's worth it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this viewer comments episode, and there will be many more to come in the future. I'll have them out every Monday morning in the future. I'm still trying to decide on which time I'm going to release them, but we'll get a consistent time on those very soon. And to all my subscribers, thank you very much. I really appreciate all of you guys more than I can say here. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, and click that bell so that you get notified every time I come out with a new episode or go live. We go live Wednesday nights at 8 and Sunday nights at 7, and we look forward to seeing you in the chat and hanging out with you guys. Well, I got a lot of great stuff coming up, and I'll see you on the next one.